Someone at the airport asked me to watch their suitcase. I never should have agreed. I'm not sure if this is the best place to post this. There will probably be a lot of YTA comments. But let me be a cautionary tale against being a good Samaritan and helping strangers with luggage. And while I know my actions will probably disgust a lot of people before you criticize, I want you to think, really think, if you'd do any different than me. So I was at airport baggage claim when a woman asked me to watch her bag. "Promise you'll keep this for me until I get back?" she said. I promised her I'd look after it, laughing a little because she seemed so anxious, as if she was worried I'd abandon it and leave it for someone to steal. The woman thanked me profusely and left. Presumably to pee, I thought, given how quick she went. She never came back. The bag had no tag and no name, just a ribbon tied on the handle. I kept it with me and waited a whole half hour for her return. But after 45 minutes, well, this was ridiculous. I left the suitcase with the rest of the unclaimed luggage, figuring it would find its way to her eventually. I was wrong. When I got home, the suitcase was there in the entryway. I stared as I closed the front door behind me. Weird, right? How did it get here? Vague thoughts flitted through my head that the airport somehow delivered it. Maybe they saw me sitting with it and assumed it was mine. The suitcase was a dark gray-green, one of those big clamshell ones with sturdy fabric around the zipper. A lacy ribbon tied on the handle and no labels at all. Not even a flight barcode sticker. Next day I returned it to the airport. But when I got home, it was back in my house in my bedroom, stationed beside my other luggage that I'd yet to unpack. This was getting disturbing. Who'd brought it back here? How did they know where I lived? If this was a prank, it had gone too far. I grabbed the suitcase and wheeled it out to the dumpster in the alley and tossed it in. But a few hours later, it was back. By then, I'd unpacked from my trip and my own luggage was deep in my closet. The green suitcase was just sitting there as if waiting to be unpacked also. I drove it out to a dumpster across town. It was back when I got home. I took it to Goodwill and donated it, but it returned again. Each time it got back, it felt heavier. As the days passed, I started having nightmares about the suitcase. I'd close my eyes, and as soon as I was asleep, I'd feel the clamshell around me as if I were all folded into it. My limbs scrunched, my lungs suffocating. I'd try to breathe, but the air was stale and I was smothered. Finally, I'd panic and wake up and see the suitcase in my room. In addition to getting heavier, it was also getting stinkier. At first, I thought it was from being thrown into the dumpster. But no, this was a different odor, and it got worse over time. It reeked like someone had hunted a deer and packed it in there and left it. And it leaked, a sort of foul, dark liquid that dripped into the carpet and left a stain. I decided to change tactics and video the suitcase in hopes of catching whoever kept returning it to me. My parents had a pet cam for their dog, so I asked them to take care of the suitcase for me, and I made sure to place it in their living room inside of the camera so that when it disappeared, I'd be able to pinpoint how and when. A day passed. 2. When I checked the footage of my parents' pet cam, the suitcase was still there. Then they called me up. Would I take my suitcase back? It was taking up space and stinking up their living room. I retrieved the suitcase and back at home put it in the garage and installed a camera to monitor it. It stayed in the garage. Thank goodness, because the smell was truly god-awful. But my dreams got even more disturbing. In the latest one, I wasn't able to move at all. I could feel my skin beginning to maggots crawling through my rotting flesh. When I woke up, it took me a few moments to blink bleary eyes and realize where I was. I was standing in the door to the garage, sleepwalking apparently, on my way toward the suitcase. A sudden dread seized me. I was afraid to go near it, to even touch it, certain that if I unzipped it, I'd wind up inside. I rented a hotel room, but of course it followed me there. At work, my boss swung by my desk to ask if everything was all right. She'd noticed my declining mental state. I broke down and I confessed everything. She asked me what was in the suitcase. I don't know, I stammered. It's not mine. I never looked. You never even looked. She seemed stunned. Isn't that the first thing you should have done? It seemed logical when she said it, but right now, even the idea of opening it all but suffocated me with dread. She said she'd like to see this mysterious suitcase and asked me to show her after work. We drove together to my hotel room. On the way, she theorized what might be in there. Was I being framed? Was there a body? I should have called the police right away, she said. Or was it something more mundane? Maybe someone bought me a frozen turkey and it had thawed and was becoming nasty. Maybe a family member was pranking me. Could be anything, and I'd know already if I'd opened the thing. My leaving the mystery for so many days seemed ridiculous to her. I had to agree, but nothing in the world would make me touch that zipper. The suitcase was there, waiting right by the door when we walked in, just tucked to one side like it was ready for me to open it. The entire room stank. My boss wrinkled her nose, and even she looked a little hesitant. She told me to open it, but I shook my head and made a noise in my throat, and she sighed and rolled her eyes and said, "All right, shut the door. We don't want anyone walking by to see." She rolled it into the bathroom in case it was messy and said she'd just open a little teak. "Where did you say it came from again?" she asked as she tugged on the zipper. I backed away, sitting on one of the beds so there was some distance between me and the bathroom. I couldn't see her anymore, but I just didn't want to be near when she unzipped it. "Someone at the airport asked me to watch it," I said. "Actually, it's funny. The only time it didn't return was when I asked my parents to look after it. It stayed put for a couple of days. I wonder if—" I stopped. Because why wasn't she saying anything? "Are you looking inside?" I called. Silence. Dread swirled in my belly. All my limbs felt leaden. I called out again. "Did you unzip it? Did you peek inside yet?" A faint muffled sound. The fear was a stone in the pit of my stomach. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. Then I heard again what seemed like a smothered cry. I rushed to the bathroom and gasped. The tip of a polished loafer sank into the suitcase, which bulged and trembled. And then the shoe was gone and the zipper was like lips smacking shut. The suitcase sat. Just a suitcase. After that, I took the suitcase with me to the bus and train terminal downtown. It was now lightweight with a slight musty smell. I surveyed the station. There was a woman with small children, a father with a teenager in tow, and then I spotted a leathery-faced man in a bucket hat sitting alone on one of the metal chairs looking a bit worse for wear. I approached him and sat next to him, pretending to read for a few moments, and then I turned to him. "Excuse me, sir," I said. "Would you mind watching my bag for me for a bit?" He looked up at me surprised, but mumbled, "Sure. You won't leave it sitting here, will you? Promise me you'll hold on to it until I get back?" I insisted. "Yeah, sure, no biggie. Thanks a million," I told him. Then I left. I haven't been back. I'm under investigation for my boss's disappearance since she was last seen in my car. But the nightmares have stopped. The smell is gone. You probably think I'm terrible. But ask yourself honestly, what would you have done in my situation? I have to issue this warning so that I can prevent others from suffering the same experience. If someone asks you to watch their bag, don't do it. No matter how much social etiquette compels you to smile and agree. Make an excuse and leave. Let people look after their own luggage. I know I'm never watching anyone's bag again.